Left for dead, the planet Yaranine was quiet, its skies gray with ash and smoke from the last orbital strike. War had passed through like a burning wind, fast and merciless. And in the middle of the ruined wasteland, someone lay half buried. In rubble and dust, she was an alien girl, young and injured, her skin marked with purple bruises and green cuts. Her breathing was weak, her body shaking from cold and pain. Her own people, those she once trusted, had left her behind without a word. They ran when the Terran warships approached. To them she was useless, slowing them down, disposable daughter. Name was Lyra. Lyra had fought beside her unit, helped carry supplies, even covered one of her leaders during a retreat. But when things got dangerous, she was forgotten, left behind like broken deer. She remembered their last words before the ships flew off. "You'll only slow us down." Then silence. Hours passed. Her coms were dead. The cold bit into her bones. The wind howled through the wreckage. She closed her eyes and waited for the end. But fate had other plans. Human patrol moved quietly through the ruined streets. Their armor was black and red, their rifles shining under the low sun. They were scanning for survivors, enemy or not. Leading them was a man named Dane, tall, broad, and quiet. He had seen too much war and lost too many people. The teams. Scanner beeped, sign of life. "Sir, something's alive just ahead." "Weak signal," said one of his soldiers. Dane moved forward. His boots crunched over shattered metal and burned stone. He stopped when he saw her. Lyra was barely conscious, her arms shielding her face. She didn't expect help, especially not from a human. She thought they would leave her too, or maybe finish the job, but Dane didn't aim his weapon. He crouched, checking her pulse, looking into her frightened eyes. "She's not armed," he said, "and she's not dying today." His squad hesitated. "Sir, that's one of them. Orders say we don't waste time on enemies." "She's not an enemy now," he said firmly. "She's alone, just like anyone would be if their people left them behind." He picked her up gently, ignoring her weak protest. Lyra didn't understand. Why? Why would a human help? She whispered something in her broken voice. "Why? Save me?" Dane didn't answer right away. He looked toward the blackened sky and said, "Because no one deserves to be left like this, not even you." His words stunned her. Dane carried her to their transport, laid her gently on a cot, and gave them medic orders to treat her. Some of his team disagreed, but none dared argue with his tone. That night, as the camp rested, Dane sat near the fire, sharpening his knife silently. Lyra, wrapped in a warm blanket, watched from the edge of the tent. Her side still ached. Her heart was heavier. But something had changed. For the first time in days, she wasn't alone. Not forgotten, not garbage. A human had stayed when even her own kind didn't. And deep in her chest, something stirred. Not just survival, but something new. Something like hope. Asterisk, the question no one dared ask the camp was quiet the next morning. Only the soft hum of generators and distant voices broke the silence. The human soldiers moved with routine checking. Supplies, weapons, and patrol routes. But all eyes kept drifting toward the girl in the corner tent. Lyra sat wrapped in a blanket. Her skin was still pale, and bandages covered half her body. She looked small among them, alien, silent, and clearly not one of their own. Some soldiers whispered. Others stared with cold eyes. But Dane, their leader, treated her like any wounded soldier. He brought her water, checked her wounds, and even made sure she got food. It wasn't much, just nutrient bars and hot broth, but to Lyra, it felt like a feast. Lyra watched Dane as he sat sharpening his blade again, just as he did the night before. His face was calm, but his eyes showed scars far deeper than battle wounds. She had seen eyes like that before on survivors who had lost everything. She wanted to speak, but didn't know how. Finally, Dane spoke first. "You're healing fast," he said without looking up. Lyra nodded slowly. Her voice was still weak. "Why do you care?" He looked at her now. "Because you're alive. That's enough." Lyra lowered her head. "My people left me. I was nothing to them." "You're something now," Dane replied. "You're under my protection." A few feet away, another soldier named Briggs was watching. He didn't like this. He stood up and walked toward them. "Sir," Briggs said firmly, "we picked up orders from High Command. Enemy survivors are to be turned over. No exceptions." Dane's eyes narrowed. "She's not a threat. She's one of them." Briggs snapped. "She could be a spy. Or worse, this is war." Lyra froze. Her hands gripped the blanket tightly. The fear returned. Would they send her back? Would they hand her over? Dane stood up slowly and faced Briggs. She was abandoned, bleeding, starving. Her own side left her to rot. He said, "If they didn't want her, why should we finish the job?" Briggs frowned. "You're risking everything over an alien." Dane stepped closer, voice low. "And you forget we're supposed to be better than them." Briggs didn't speak again. He turned and walked away, but the tension remained. Lyra looked up at Dane, voice trembling. "You could have handed me over." "Yes," he said, "but I didn't." "Why?" she asked, this time louder. Dane took a breath. He didn't speak. For a while. Then he said, "Because I lost someone once. In another war. She was left behind. No one went back for her. I promised myself, if I ever had the chance to save someone like her, I wouldn't walk away again." Lyra blinked. Her chest tightened. That night, she didn't sleep. She kept thinking of Dane's words, of the fire in his voice, of how he looked at her not like an enemy, but like someone who mattered. She didn't understand humans. Her people had called them monsters, warmongers, beasts of fire and blood. But this, one human, was nothing like that. He asked nothing from her. He just stayed. Lyra looked at her hands, still trembling, then at the stars above the open tent flap. And for the first time since she was left behind, she asked herself something strange. What if she never wanted to go back? What if this human saw her more clearly than her entire species ever did? A question formed in her heart. One no one had ever dared ask before. And tomorrow, she would find the courage to say it out loud. You don't belong to them anymore. The next morning came with a warning siren. Dane's squad rushed into formation, weapons loaded, eyes alert. The scanners had picked up movement just outside the valley. Small patrols, not human, not friendly. Lyra stayed inside the tent, but she could hear everything. The sharp orders, the sound of boots hitting the dirt, the hum of armor systems charging. Up, she pulled the blanket tighter around herself and stared at the corner of the tent, heart pounding. A medic passed by the flap and paused. "Don't worry," he said gently. "If they try to come for you, Captain won't let them." She didn't answer. Outside, Dane stood with his command tablet, studying the readings. Briggs approached again, his tone sharp. "It's her people. Recon bots spotted their symbols on the armor. They're circling." Dane stayed calm. "They're scouting, looking for something. Or someone." "You mean her," Briggs said. "They left her behind? Now they want her back? What's the plan, sir? Are we handing her over?" Dane stared at the distant hills. His voice was steady. "No." Briggs frowned. "Even if it's a direct request? This might cause a diplomatic fire we can't put out." Dane turned his eyes toward the tent. "She's under my protection. You want to report it to command? Go ahead, but I won't be the one delivering her to people who threw her away like trash." Briggs didn't reply. Inside the tent, Lyra overheard everything. Her ears were sharp trained from a young age to catch details, even through noise and wind. She had always listened more than she spoke, but now the words cut deep. "They want me back. But only now after they left me to die." She stood, slowly, every muscle aching, and pushed through the flap. The soldiers turned their heads. Some looked at her with suspicion, others with surprise. No one spoke. She walked to Dane, legs shaky but eyes strong. "If they want me back," she said quietly, "do I have to go?" Dane looked down at her, his expression softening. "Do you want to?" Lyra shook her head. "They only want me now because I'm still breathing. They didn't care when I screamed for help. They didn't come back. You did." He nodded once. "Then you're not going back." "But I'm not one of you," she said, voice trembling. Payne looked at the soldiers nearby, then back at her. "You're alive. That's enough for me. And from today forward, you don't belong to them anymore." Lyra's lips trembled. Her heart beat faster. Those words, simple, soft, hit harder than anything before. You don't belong to them anymore. It wasn't just kindness, Dot. It was freedom. Dane handed her a folded piece of cloth. She looked down and saw the smallest version of a Terran scout uniform, gray and flexible. "You'll need it," he said. "We're moving out soon. You can stay with us. We'll keep you safe." "I don't want to slow you down," she whispered. "You won't," he said. "You're part of us now. If anyone has a problem, they'll take it up with me." Behind him, a few soldiers murmured. Some weren't happy, but others nodded quietly. Lyra clutched the uniform to her chest and gave a small bow. Later, when the teen prepared to leave, she walked with them, not carried this time, not hiding, but walking on her own. Her legs were weak and the path was rough. But she didn't fall. Dane walked beside her in silence. He didn't tell her to hurry. He didn't tell her to stay back. He just walked Dot with her Dot side by side. We're not all like them. The squad moved across dry hills and broken ruins, slowly making their way toward the extraction point. They had one goal now: reach the uplink site and wait for pickup. It was risky. Enemy scouts were closing in from behind, and the terrain offered little cover. But Lyra walked with them. Her steps were slow but steady. Each footfall reminded her that she had not died in that rubble. She had survived, and now she had people around her again. Not her own kind, not the ones who abandoned her. Humans. The same species her people once warned her about. The same ones they claimed were violent, selfish, cold. But the truth didn't match the stories. Not at all. She watched as Dane gave water to one of his tired soldiers. She noticed how another human shared a ration bar with the youngest among them. They looked like warriors, but acted like something more, something gentler, under all the armor. After an hour of walking, the squad took shelter under a collapsed metal archway. The sun had dipped lower, painting the sky orange and red. Lyra sat on a rock, breathing slowly. Her ribs still ached. She wasn't sure if she could go much farther. A shadow moved beside her. It was Briggs. She tensed. He hadn't spoken to her since they left camp. She expected anger, or maybe orders to stay quiet. But instead, he knelt beside her and handed her a small metal packet. "Electrogel," he said, not looking at her. "For your wounds. Rub it in slow." Lyra stared, then reached out and took it carefully. "Thank you." He still didn't meet her eyes. "I didn't agree with the captain at first," Briggs admitted. "Didn't trust you. Still not." "Sure I do." She stayed quiet. "But," he added, "I saw what your people did. Left you behind like you didn't matter." "That's not right." Even enemies should respect their own. Lyra looked down. We don't all think the same. I didn't want to fight. I just followed orders. Briggs nodded slowly. We've all done things we regret. He stood and walked off without another word. Lyra sat frozen, unsure how to feel. The same soldier who once wanted her gone had offered help. Not kindness, maybe, but something close. Dane came over next and sat beside her. He's trying, he said. Briggs lost his brother last year. An ambush. He blames your species. Maybe he always will. I understand, Lyra whispered. I'd feel the same. Dane looked at her. But you're not like them. Are you? She shook her head slowly. No, I never was. He smiled just a little. Good, because we're not all like them either. Lyra looked into his eyes. For the first time in her life, she believed that. She asked softly, Do you think I could ever be one of you? Dane raised an eyebrow. You already are. You chose to walk with us. That's more than enough. A silence passed between them. Calm, solid, but it didn't last. A sharp beep echoed from the scout scanner. Movement fast and heavy heading toward them. They've found us. Someone shouted. Dane stood instantly, hand on his weapon. Positions. Get ready. Briggs tossed Lyra a stun shield. Stay close. Don't get yourself shot. She caught it, hands shaking. I want to help. Dane looked at her. You sure? She nodded. They left me to die. You didn't. I fight with you now. No one said anything. Then Dane gave a firm nod. Then take cover and stay behind me. The rumble of engines echoed closer. Whatever came next, Lyra wasn't running anymore. This time she would stand. With them. The one who stayed. The ground trembled as armored footsteps approached. Dane crouched near a burned wall, eyes focused. His squad moved with discipline, each soldier covering a corner, weapons ready. The tension in the air was thick. Lyra sat behind a half-broken crate, holding the stun shield tight. Her hands were sweating. Her heart beat like a drum. She knew. The sound of that march. Those were her people. The same species that had abandoned her just days ago. Through the rising dust, their figures appeared tall, silver-armored warriors with the same cold markings on their chest plates. Their helmets covered their faces. They moved in tight formation, scanning the area. At their front was a captain taller than the rest, with gold lines across his armor. He raised his hand, and the group stopped. Dane stood up, calm but unafraid. This is Terran ground, he called out. State your reason for crossing it. The alien captain stepped forward, voice flat. We are not here to fight. We are here to retrieve one of our own. Her name is Lyra. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. Briggs muttered, So now they want her back? Dane didn't move. She's with us now. She is our property. The alien said coldly, She carries classified genetic data. She must be returned, Lyra gasped. She didn't know that. They had never told her. Suddenly, everything made sense. Why they took her into battle. Why they gave her the vaccine. Before the mission. Why they didn't care if she lived as long as the data stayed hidden. Dane looked back at her, and in that moment her eyes said everything. They didn't want her for who she was. They wanted what was inside her. She stood up. Everyone turned. Lyra walked past the crates, past the soldiers, and stood beside Dane. Her legs shook, but her voice didn't. You left me to die, she said loudly to the captain. I begged for help. You gave none. You were compromised, the captain replied. We had no choice. No, she snapped. You had no care. There was silence. Then Dane said, She's not going anywhere with you. The captain tilted his head. She belongs to us. You are protecting a stolen asset. She's not an asset. Dane growled. She's a person. You left her behind. We didn't. The alien squad shifted. Hands on weapons. The humans tensed. A single spark could start a battle. Then something happened no one expected. Lyra stepped in front of Dane. "If you want me back," she said, raising her arms, "you'll have to take me." The captain hesitated. "You would resist your own kind?" "I am resisting," she said, "because only one side stayed. Only one side treated me like I mattered. And it wasn't you." Dane whispered behind her, "You don't have to do this." "I do," she replied. "For me." The alien captain stared at her. For a long moment, no one moved. Then he lowered his hand. "Very well," he said. "Let the humans have their toy. But don't expect mercy next time." He turned. The alien soldiers followed. They marched away without a fight. Briggs lowered his weapon and let out a long breath. That was close. Dane stepped beside Lyra. "You okay?" She nodded slowly, shaking. "But yes." He gave a small smile. "You stood taller than half my squad today." She looked up at him, her eyes full. "You stayed when they didn't." He met her gaze. "Always." That night, as the stars appeared above, Lyra sat beside the campfire. She didn't feel like an outsider anymore. She felt like someone who had chosen her place. Someone who had been chosen, too. And as Dane passed her a warm drink and said nothing more, she smiled quietly. She didn't need more words. She had already found the one who stayed. Something worth protecting. The fire crackled gently. Night had fully fallen, and the stars above were bright, far brighter than Lyra remembered. It was strange how even the sky looked different now. Maybe it wasn't the sky that changed. Maybe it was her. She sat beside Dane and the rest of the squad, wrapped in a clean blanket. Someone had even made room for her among the circle. No one said it out loud, but she was part of the group now. And yet, her mind kept returning to one thing: the captain's words. "You carry classified genetic data." What did it mean? Was that all she was to them? A container? A carrier? She looked at her hands, her arms, her body so different from these humans. And yet, they had never treated her like an object. Not once. She had to know the truth. Later that night, after most of the squad had gone to sleep, she approached Dane. He was still awake, sitting with his back against a wall, scanning maps on his data tablet. "Captain," she said softly. He looked up. "Couldn't sleep?" She shook her head. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." She sat beside him, legs crossed. The fire behind them crackled low. "When he said I carry genetic data, what did that mean? Can you find out?" Dane looked at her seriously. Then he reached for his wrist device and tapped into a restricted database. After a moment, a file appeared. "This was flagged when we scanned your vitals earlier," he said. "I didn't share it with anyone. Thought you should see it first." He turned the screen toward her. Lyra leaned in. The file was short, but its contents hit her like a storm. Subject ID: Lyra O2 genetic modifications, high resilience cell structure, multi-environment adaptability, neural layer enhancements purpose, prototype survivor class field agent status, experimental, not to be retrieved unless functional, disposal if compromised. Lyra stared. Her hands trembled. "So, I was an experiment?" Dane didn't answer. He didn't need to. "I thought I was a scout," she whispered. "I trained for years. Thought I earned my place. I believed I mattered." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "You do." "No," she said, voice sharp. "I was just a test to them. If I died, it meant nothing." Asterisk, it meant something to us, Dane said gently. "You weren't supposed to survive, but you did. You weren't supposed to find people who cared, But you did. She turned to look at him, eyes wide. Why? Why do you care so much? Dane looked away, his voice low. Because I've seen too many people treated like tools. Soldiers used and thrown away. We were taught to be cold. But if we stop seeing people as people, what's the point of any of this? She stayed silent. Then he added, You are more than what they made you. More than code. More than a mission. You're something. They'll never understand. What's that? She asked. He smiled faintly. Something worth protecting. Her heart twisted. No one had ever said that to her. Not once. She wiped her face quickly. Sorry. Don't be. There was a long silence after that. Comfortable. Real. Then Lyra whispered. I want to fight. Not for them. For this. For you all. For something real. Dane nodded. Then we'll train you. The right way. Not as a weapon. As a teammate. She looked up at the stars once more, feeling something warm in her chest. Not fear. Not pain. Purpose. For the first time. She wasn't a mistake or a discarded tool. She was part of something. And she would fight for it with everything she had. Asterisk, the days passed quickly. Lyra trained with the humans, waking early and running drills. With Dane's squad. Her body still hurt at times, and her movements weren't perfect. But no one laughed. No one pushed her too far. They taught her with patience, with trust. She learned to fire a pulse rifle. Learned how to use cover, signal. Hand signs. Move silently across rough terrain. Every time she fell, Dane helped her back up. Every time she hesitated, Briggs gave a small nod, urging her on. Bit by bit, the fear inside her faded. She wasn't alone anymore. The day of extraction arrived at last. The squad stood in a wide open clearing, wind blowing across the grass. Their comms confirmed a Terran transport ship was on approach. Smoke trails streaked the sky as it entered the atmosphere, loud and sharp. Dane glanced at Lyra. She now wore a properly fitted uniform, her old scars hidden beneath new armor. But her eyes were different. Not lost, not broken. She was. Ready. As the ship landed, its rear doors opened with a hiss, and high-ranking officers stepped out. Among them was Commander Valen, a sharp-eyed woman who scanned the squad quickly before stopping on Lyra. This is the alien survivor? She asked Dane. Yes, ma'am, Dane replied calmly. She's not on any of our lists. Why was she brought with you? She's one of us now. Valen raised an eyebrow. You're saying she defected? Lyra stepped forward before Dane. Could speak. No, she said. I was never truly with them. I believed in lies. I gave them everything, and they left me. This team didn't ask for anything, but they gave me everything. Valen watched her silently for a moment, then said, We'll have to report this. She need to be registered, evaluated. She's not a threat, Dane said firmly. Maybe not, Valen replied. But she's still not human. Briggs finally stepped forward. Neither are some of the allies we've worked with. Species doesn't matter. Loyalty does. Lyra looked at the officers, then at the squad who had become her family. I'll take any test you want, she said. I just want to belong somewhere where life matters. Not data, not orders, just people. Valen looked at her for a long time. Then, to everyone's surprise, nodded. Double quotes very well. You'll be processed. With the squad. No isolation. You stay with them under Dane's command. Lyra felt her chest rise with relief. Her grip on the stun shield at her side loosened. As they boarded the ship. One by one, Lyra paused at the ramp and looked back at the world below. It had tried to kill her. Her people had tried to forget her. But this ground had also given her the chance to meet someone who refused to leave her behind. She turned to Dane, walking beside her. "Why did you really stay that day?" she asked quietly. He gave a soft smile. "Because when you find someone worth saving, you don't walk away. You hold the line." She nodded slowly, and this time, when the ramp closed behind them, Lyra didn't feel like a prisoner or an experiment. She felt like part of something. Bigger dot something human dot. She was no longer lost, dot no longer unwanted. She was no longer alone.